It's Jessica from Audacity, and I am here today with the amazing Willie E. Jones III, who is young enough to be my brother, but cool enough to be my boss. And he is the artistic director at Stage Door Players here in Atlanta. And we're super excited to interview him today because we are in the middle of a show right now, Romeo and Juliet. It's a classic, and it's playing this weekend and next weekend at Stage Door Players. If you guys are interested in seeing the show, click the link in the comments below, and we will also make sure we have this up on our website. Welcome to Audacity, Willie.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being here. Appreciate it.
Yes, we are so excited. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Tell us a little bit about Romeo and Juliet. We know like everybody's going to say like, oh my God, like it's Shakespeare, it's Romeo and Juliet, it's done to death, blah, blah, blah. What made you choose this show for your inaugural season here in Atlanta?
One of my big goals was to bring more diversity to the audiences. And one of the things about something like Romeo and Juliet is it's been seen to death, it's been studied to death. So I thought, how can I make it different? So I added in jazz, R&B, hip hop. I set it in the 90s. The costuming's fire. The set is inspired by Basquiat. You know, like I made it contemporary in a way that no one's ever seen it before, in the hopes that, you know, more diverse audiences can see themselves in it. So that was pretty much the goal.
I love it. And obviously I have to love it because I'm actually in the show. They got me looking like old school Aunt Viv, y'all. I'm very here for it. I'm enjoying myself very much. And
You look good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you guys definitely have to check it out. And I love how we're incorporating the 90s elements in there because, you know, we're 90s babies. So it's super pivotal to make it relevant to the millennial and Gen Z generation. How do you feel that this generation can learn from Romeo and Juliet even now?
Romeo and Juliet is about two major entities who cannot get along, and it affects all the people in the middle. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Very
And that's what I was trying to get at, and I think that comes across pretty well in the show, that like these two families, these two essentially political parties, everyone caught in the middle gets killed. Like they're the ones who suffer for it, like they're the ones who are dead at the end. So I hope like that resonates with people of our generation.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. All right. So the next thing I had on my mind as far as Romeo and Juliet goes is the music. So you mentioned that, you know, you add in R&B, you add in hip hop. What inspired those choices?
Literally, when our set designer, Lila Chapman, shout out, she's amazing.
She is.
When she brought me her idea, I was like, bet, what if we graffitied it with Basquiat? And then I was like, oh, wait, Basquiat reminds me of jazz. So I put in some John Coltrane, some Miles Davis. Then I was like, why stop there? Luther Vandross came into the picture, Biggie Smalls came into the picture. And then it was off to the races from there. It was like, well, I'm not going back from here. Like, it's just going to be it's gonna be R&B, hip hop, and jazz. They're gonna black this thing up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. And that's another point that I really, really love about Romeo and Juliet. It's a very diverse cast. When it comes to romance, the world of romance tends to be very whitewashed. Can you talk about how diversity plays such a serious role in this particular version?
It's integral to the show because there are different dynamics at play. Well, let's take you, Lady Capulet. You in our version, your husband is white, and Juliet is white, right? So there's animosity between Lady Capulet and Juliet, and by nature of your races, bodies and space is what I call it. It hits a little bit different, doesn't it? When you're like, don't talk to me. When you're like, do as I say. But your nephew Tybalt is black.
Yeah,
And you favor him. See, so like we have all these different subliminal things happening that like give a dynamic, but it's not on the nose. We're not beating you over the head with it. It's subtle. And you got to catch it. Like you and Paris, I'm sorry, you and Tybalt are like this. The two black people. And you and Juliet are like this. Like y'all ain't so close. And you and your husband got problems. So like it's really integral to these subliminal messages that if you really pay attention to it, it's pretty compelling.
100%. It's, you guys got to come to the show. You have to come to the show. There are so many additional ways that this permeates into the action, but we don't want to give it away either. You have to show up. You have to buy a ticket, show up. If you are looking for tickets, let us know. We will get them in your hands because we want butts in seats, guys. We do.
Yes, we do.
So, all right. So moving out of the specifics of Romeo and Juliet, because you guys are going to see it this weekend and next weekend, I want to talk more about you as a director. And okay. So let's get this out of the way. You're a 22-year-old Black guy. You just moved here from up north, and you're an artistic director. Like, you winning. You are winning right now. But like, talk to me about what that's like, because you're doing this and we're blacking up, you know, Romeo and Juliet very nicely, but we also have a very classical season ahead of us. So talk to me about diversity in classical theater and why that is a mission for you to make that accessible to others.
For sure. So there's a stat that I want to bring up. So there is a common misconception that in America, everybody's doing classical theater. That's actually not true. As of 2 years ago, only 12% of all plays in this country were classical plays. And of that 12%, 40% was Shakespeare. This is a new play country. And so people like you and me, we don't grow up seeing ourselves in those things because they're never done. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, for me, classical theater is all about language. How do we use language to get what we want, to manipulate, to fall in love, to move ahead in life? And when something's about language, anybody can play it. You know, like Jessica, there is no reason you couldn't be Juliet. There's no reason you couldn't be a Cleopatra. There's no reason you couldn't be Nora in A Doll's House. Like, there's nothing that says you can't, right? There are exceptions, like, you know, I don't know if somebody white should be playing Othello, right? Like, I don't know about all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but generally speaking, it's about language, and everyone can see themselves in language. You know what I'm saying? And so it's opening that up for people like you, like me, because, you know, growing up, I grew up in Orlando, and, you know, I grew up in Pine Hills, Central Florida. Like, nobody thought I'd grow up doing Shakespeare. Like, it's considered so highbrow, so high art, when really it's some of the most accessible stuff you could ever see. I mean, you know this for a fact. There's so much. There's violence. There's sex. There's even drug use. There's so much contemporary like stuff in it. There's no reason that Black people or minorities should not see themselves in it, and that's my main goal at Stage Door.
I love that. And it's such a necessary mission right now, because there's always this, like, there's this common misconception that things that are Eurocentric or white, like, that means that you're highbrow, that means that you're winning, that means that you're successful. Like, even when we get to see people of color at, like, the Met Gala or at the recent Dolce & Gabbana event in Venice, it's this notion that Black excellence means getting into white spaces as if you don't belong there, which is 100% not true. So I love that we're kind of demystifying what sophistication and what highbrow, what aristocracy is, because it's literally for everybody. The Cosby Show tried to accomplish that and y'all didn't appreciate it. But, you know, it's so exciting to see that Black creators are trying to create that again for stage, because even the theater itself is seen as like this highbrow place that only rich people go to or can go to, because, you know, sometimes somebody doesn't have the money to buy a ticket. That being said, I don't know why we assume it's only people of color who can't afford to buy tickets to the theater. That's not how that works. Right. You know, so it's super exciting and refreshing to see a young creator of color who is trying to demystify that. Because once you demystify things, you make them more accessible than you realize. So it's been really great to see. And it's really great that it's happening up the street for me, like, and that I'm in it. So I'm enjoying it 100%. Okay, so gosh, I think we've kind of like we dug into that a little bit deeper than I thought we would. So I actually don't have another question about that. Oh. But I do have one more question. So my last question is, as a Gen Z person in a very high leadership position, Can you describe what that has been like for you? Do you feel different kinds of pressures to perform? Do you feel like, do you ever feel like some kind of like imposter syndrome because of your age?
All the time. Oh my associate artistic director has been working in the theater longer than I've been alive, and he works for me. Like that's major imposter syndrome. But I'll tell you something, and hand to God, this is the truth. I feel zero pressure, and here's why. I'm 22 years old. If I fail at this, if I completely bomb, I have time to recover. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like I am not scared to take risks. I'm not scared to fail because I'm 22.
You got
Like God
time.
for
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not in my 40s. I'm not in my 50s. I'm not at the twilight of my career. I'm at the beginning of my career. Hell, I overachieved. Like like there's you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
it ain't like it ain't nothing but a G thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's cool. It's cool for sure. But I will say like there's a heavy load on my shoulders. You know what I mean? Like I am 22 and it's been a hell of a ride. It's been very, very stressful, as you know. But it's also very, very rewarding. It's extremely like meeting people like you, doing interviews like this, bringing in the community, bringing something exciting to this city, especially that's
Mhm.
on the come up. Man, it's gonna be good though. It's gonna be good.
We're expecting some really great things. Like what is it that you do? Because you said, you're stressed out. Sometimes you don't feel like, you feel imposter syndrome every now and then. What do you do to alleviate that? And how would you advise, we're both young professionals, we're both young business
Right.
owners and everything. Like,
Mhm.
how would you advise somebody to move through that?
For me personally, it's all about mentors. It's all about having people who've been through it. So when I go through a really tough time or a stressful time, I talk to Kelly, or I'll talk to a mentor I met in undergrad, or I'll talk to another artistic director friend who's done it. And talking to them, getting their perspective and learning that the world's not going to blow up, you're not going to die, you know, like that's really, really helpful. I would advise anybody find an old head, find an OG, find somebody
Yeah.
who's been through it. They will put you at ease because at this age, everything feels like the stakes are 10 out of 10. But really, it's not. Like it's
Mhm.
super not. Like I love theater. I think it changes the world, but it's not brain surgery. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not.
Right.
It's
Right.
one of my mentors had a saying that I love. It's not called a work. It's called a play. It's supposed to be fun. You see, like it's not supposed to be so heavy and serious. It's supposed to be important, but you can't let it like keep you up at night. You just can't, you know?
Right. It can't like take over your life. And that's like, I feel like with any job, you have to set your boundaries.
Hmm.
Of course, I own this business. And so like, I have a very hard time giving myself boundaries with this thing, but, but, I still work a day job. And so in order to make sure that I have enough to give to this here at Audacity and to give to you guys when I come to work at night, at the theater, I have to
Hmm.
make sure I set very clear boundaries with my day job being like, hey, I need an hour lunch break and I'm going to go take it because it's in my contract. And my
For
manager is
sure.
always she's so impressed that
Mhm.
that I know how to set healthy self-care boundaries. And she's like, what do you do?
Right.
I want to know.
Hmm.
So it's really great. It's a really great thing when you learn that those habits early, for
For
sure.
sure.
You have to
You've
you
got to you've got to advocate. You said something beautiful, Justin. You've got to advocate for yourself. You
yes.
know, like no one else is gonna do it for you. And
Hmm.
nobody else should because no one can speak for you like you can speak for yourself. Again, back to language. That's why it's important. Shakespeare taught me rhetoric. It taught me how to convince people. It taught me how to argue. It taught me how to debate, but it taught me how to speak up. And I think that's a beautiful thing, Jessica, because a lot of people our age don't feel that way. They
Right.
don't feel like they can speak up. But you got to advocate for yourself even when it's scary. You know what I mean? And what I found is that like your boss, I actually find most people respect that.
They do. They
Yeah,
100% do. And honestly, if they are one of those people who don't, you're probably on the wrong team.
exactly.
You're definitely on the wrong team if somebody cannot respect you speaking up for yourself in a respectful and professional manner.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that though, because yeah, at our age, we're not expected to advocate for ourselves. We're expected to just shut up and fall in line. Um, clearly you have not done that, or you would not be where you're sitting right now. So tell us about a time where you shocked an elder in the room, when you shocked Willie G in the room because you spoke up for yourself, and how did that feel? Was it empowering?
Oh.
Was it scary?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I can remember it like it was yesterday. So I was doing this film acting workshop with some people in undergrad, and we had this guest, this guest teacher. And like, we trained in theater. So like this screen right here, we're not used to, like, I'm used to big gestures and all these things. And so, she was really beating down on us, and there were freshmen and sophomores in the room, and I'm a senior. And so I had to be like, yo, hold up. You do know that, like, we did not train in this. You need to go easy. And basically I told her that she was being a little too hard on us, and that she needs to, like, respect the fact that we don't have the vocabulary she has. And the next day she came back to class and she thanked me because she didn't like, she realized that she was going a little bit too hard, that she wasn't going, she wasn't being as patient as she could. But I'm like, these freshmen aren't going to speak up. So as the oldest in the room, I need to speak up. And, she's twice my age. She has way more experience. She has more degrees to her name. But I'm like, that is no excuse to not be aware of that fact that you are terrifying these these freshmen and sophomores into thinking that they're not talented, that they're not good enough.
Right.
So that was an example that sticks out to me very much.
I mean, she herself was like failing herself in that rule too. The number one rule is know your audience and pivot.
Yep.
One of the things I love Selena Quintanilla. And so I was watching the series that her sister produced for Netflix. And one of the things that really stuck to me was AB complaining to their dad that they just had a bad crowd. And he's like, there are no bad crowds. There are no bad crowds. There are no bad audiences. If they're not feeling what you're putting out, pivot, change the beat, and do it immediately. And you do it fast. And I feel like that can apply anywhere in any kind of profession. Like, obviously we're both in performance, but even in leadership, we're also both in leadership. If what we're telling an employee, or, somebody who's ranking a little bit lower than us as far as like the work hierarchy goes or whatever, like if it's not landing, then it's just not landing. You have to change the delivery, or you're not going to get what you want. But that's really great that, like, so when you get into those moments, does it take much courage, or is it second nature to you?
For me, I wouldn't call it courageous for me personally, just because I've always been raised to be that kind of person who, if I see wrongdoing, I'll call it out. Like if I see someone who cannot defend themselves, then I will come to their rescue. So it didn't feel courageous. Also, it was on Zoom, so I was feeling a little frisky too. You know how Zoom warriors are.
They feel very bold these days. You get very bold on Zoom now.
It's true, but like I also kind of live by the saying, "It goeth before the fall." Like I am not too prideful to fail. I'm not too prideful to make an ass of myself, because it's good intentions are a noble thing, right? Like if you're trying to do the right thing and you do it the wrong way, you still get props, because at least you're putting in the effort. And as long as I'm putting in the effort, I feel good about myself,
I'm here for it. All right, guys, I think I have exhausted Willie for the day. We still have to go to work later. So we still have to be at work tonight. And we also got to go back to work in our day jobs. So we will see you guys next time on Audacity. Thank you, Willie, for joining us. Guys, Romeo and Juliet is running this weekend and next weekend, but we have a whole season to get through. So if you're interested in getting tickets or season passes, we sell those too. Make sure you click the link in the comments below. This will also be up on our website. And if you're interested in learning more, make sure you follow Stage Door. I believe their handle is Stage Door Theater Georgia. I'll drop the handle in the link in the comments. All right, guys, we will see you next time. Thank you so much.